Hi, today we're going to look at aerobic respiration and the various pathways that feed into it. Specifically, or more specifically, how do carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, nucleic acids get used for ATP production? All right, so we're going to focus on this particular figure here and a few others, and hopefully that will kind of fill in the blanks for you. So far we've been focusing on carbohydrates, specifically glucose. If you recall, glucose goes through cellular respiration. We do glycolysis, then we do pyruvate oxidation, then we do the Krebs cycle, and every one of those steps are going to extract energy from the glucose, and then ultimately electrons will be moved to the electron transport chain down here, and we'll get a production of ATP. And of course, that's the goal of cellular respiration, make ATP for cells, because cells need ATP to do a variety of forms of work. Now, what you got to realize is other nutrients that we intake in our food can also be used for ATP production as well. All right. So if we look at lipids first here, if you recall, your typical lipid is this. It's a triglyceride. And it's called a triglyceride because we have 1, 2, 3 fatty acids. And those 3 fatty acids are attached to a molecule of glycerol. All right. Now, this molecule here, called a triglyceride or just a fat, can be used as energy. It can be converted into ATP. Now, typically what's going to happen is the molecule is going to be cut up. And the first cut's going to happen right here. If I just draw this pink line here, pink-purple line to represent that cut, we're going to separate the glycerol from the 3 fatty acids. All right. Then what happens is, as you can see right here, the glycerol gets changed, processed through some chemical reactions and whatnot, and fed into glycolysis, and that process is called gluconeogenesis. Now, the fatty acids also get fed into cellular respiration or aerobic respiration as well. These fatty acids are long chains of carbons, and they're going to be cut up, and they're going to be cut up in 2 carbon sections. So there are 2 carbons here, so we cut, 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 and we do that until the entire fatty acid is chopped up into 2 carbon sections. Now, every 2 carbon section, I'll just highlight one of them here, that's going to be used to make acetyl coenzyme A. And if we go back to this figure here, those acetyl coenzyme A's, which we get from the fatty acids, are going to be fed into the Krebs cycle. And then we get NADH, we get FADH2, we get a little bit of ATP made by substrate level phosphorylation, and ultimately we're going to continue the rest of cellular respiration, and again we're going to make some more ATP from that. All right. Now, usually the body is going to switch to fats or triglycerides as an energy source when there isn't much carbohydrate around, and typically there's diet imbalances in our body, or we're in we're in survival mode. Because of lack of nutrients or whatnot, the body will turn to its fat stores as a source of energy. Of course, when we do that, then we start to lose weight. So if you're dieting and you're reducing the amount of carbohydrates that you're intaking, you're reducing the number of calories, but your body still needs to function to handle your exercise and to handle your day-to-day activities, then it'll use the fats, the triglycerides, in the way that I just demonstrated a moment ago, and use that for ATP production, and so you lose weight. Now, in really extreme circumstances, or where your diet has an overabundance of proteins or whatnot, then the body can use proteins as a source of energy as well. So we just switch to this figure here, which is of an amino acid. What will happen is this amino functional group right here is going to be cut off. Right? And when that gets cut off, we make a molecule called ammonia. Now, ammonia is quite toxic to the body, and so the body will process it and make a molecule called urea. And urea becomes part of your urine, and your kidneys get rid of it. The remaining parts of the amino acid, which are right here, go through some further processing, and when that happens, the amino acids, depending on which type of amino acid we're talking about, it can be inputted into glycolysis, it can be changed into acetyl coenzyme A, it can be changed into molecules that make up the Krebs cycle, like alpha-ketoglutarate, for example, and then the rest of cellular respiration happens normally. And again, when that happens, we eventually make some ATP by substrate level phosphorylation, but we also make a lot of FADH2 and NADH, and they will eventually go to the electron transport chain, and we get ATP out of that. Again, the use of proteins is more of an extreme thing. If you're talking about someone with an extreme diet, extreme poverty, someone who's anorexic, for example, the body is going to run out of carbohydrates, it's going to eventually run out of fat stores, and it's going to switch to proteins. And that's when it gets really dangerous. The body will start using proteins from muscle, proteins from organs, proteins from the skeletal system, and elsewhere in order to, make ATP. And then that's when the body starts to become damaged and whatnot. Now, we know of one other macromolecule, nucleic acids. And the nucleic acids aren't listed or drawn on this particular figure, but they are used as a source of energy as well. And just like we saw with proteins and lipids, a nucleic acid can go through some further processing and be inputted into a different point of cellular respiration and ultimately be used for ATP production as well. So there you have it. Carbohydrates are your typical pathway, but we can use lipids with some further processing and chemical reactions. We can use proteins as well, and it just depends on the balance of your diet and the particular circumstances that you put your body through. Those things are going to determine whether or not you're going to use carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, or in what ratio. Okay, so hopefully that helped. Have a great day.